My 23F boyfriend meme of 1 year is starting to gross me out, and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting. Hello, Reddit. This is really awkward and embarrassing to share, but I can't think of anywhere else to get advice. I've been dating James for just over a year. We have a really good relationship, and we are good with communicating any issues that we have come to. I am very much in love with him, and we are happy. Now, maybe he is very comfortable with me now, which I know is a good thing, but I'm very frustrated, and I don't know if it's just me. This is the only issue I have with him. He's just constantly farting and burping, and it's starting to really gross me out. It feels stupid to even type that, but it's really become excessive. We are both graduated from school and work full-time. We do not live together, but he is starting to move into my apartment. This started about 5 months into our relationship, and it has gotten progressively worse. He will burp constantly and blow it into my face to a point where I will start dry heaving because he thinks it's funny. He does the same thing with farting, always trying to do it on me because he thinks it's hilarious. I know it's normal. I grew up with 4 brothers, but he is constantly forcing it to happen. This is not once or twice. We have spent almost every night together the past 6 months, and it will happen all night. All night. I have asked him to please stop because I find it really gross, especially the burping, because he will do it in my face and it turns my stomach, and he will apologize but still continue to do it. Or lean in for a kiss and burp in my face instead, then laugh himself to the point of tears when I act disgusted. I thought maybe at first he was just really gassy and I should be more understanding because it's a natural bodily function. He does not do this when we are out to dinner or with friends. A few months ago, we went to a wedding together with some members of his family, and he accidentally burped really loudly like he normally does when he is alone with me. And our table went really silent and glared at him. I didn't want him to be embarrassed, so I high-fived him and said, "Good one." And the whole table started laughing and cheering, and afterwards he pulled me aside and said he was thankful I did so, as he was humiliated, but I broke the ice. I was a bit drunk and frustrated, so I asked him why he does it to me constantly, but he wouldn't do it in front of other people. His reasoning is that I am his girlfriend, and he should be able to play around with me like that. That I was being a typical girl for finding it rude, uptight, high maintenance. I didn't want to argue about it, so I told him I was none of those things, and he knew it. Cut the nonsense. We'll talk about it later when we're sober and just have a fun time at the party for now. And we did, but it never changes. I've tried to make plans to be out of the house when we see each other, because even though it seems ridiculous, it's starting to stress me out. I can't talk to any of my friends about it because they think it's so funny. He is a very sweet guy. I like spending time with him, but I feel nauseous when we are alone together because it's just so gross. He is starting to work longer shifts, so he wants to stay in a lot, most nights, to relax. He started doing it during intimacy as a joke, and our intimacy life has really suffered because of it. A few nights ago, he was texting me before he got off work, complaining about his day, and he seemed really stressed out, so I told him I would come over and I'll make his favorite and I'll make him forget about it. So I went over to his house and started cooking until he was off. After dinner, he leaned in to kiss me, and I turned my head because I'm so used to him burping in my face. We had an argument because he was accusing me of cheating. We haven't been having intimacy. I told him it was because of the burping, and he said I needed to get over it, that he was only joking and I was being such a prude, that his girlfriend shouldn't reject a kiss from him, yada yada. I told him that I've been saying this is a problem for a while. I don't think it's funny at all. I have thrown up because of it. He started to laugh as I said that, and I just kind of lost it. I don't really yell at people. I am a calm and collected person, so I scared him a bit. I told him it was disgusting, and I am getting to the point where I'm no longer attracted to him, that I've been trying so hard to be understanding, but it's a two-way street. It wasn't to me about something being gross or funny anymore. It was about respect. He kind of got defensive, trying to throw in how I was overreacting, being ridiculous, But I shut it down and he apologized because he apparently didn't know I felt so strongly about it. He would try not to do it anymore, at all. I don't care that it happens. I only care that he forces it, etc. Now, having talked it out, for the next couple of hours, he actually didn't try to burp in my face or fart on me. I was so happy I could enjoy cuddling my boyfriend without trying not to vomit. So I started unzipping his pants to make him forget about his bad day. You already know where this is going. It's humiliating, but I'm going to type it out anyway. As I was trying to blow him, he pushed my head down so I couldn't get away and tensed up and started farting loudly while laughing. I was so frustrated, I started crying immediately. I think he realized he did something wrong because he let go of my head and tried to hold me, and he kept saying, "I'm sorry, I thought you meant to do it less." I thought it was going to be funny to break the tension from before. But I got up and left his apartment. That was 2 days ago. He has tried calling me, texting me constantly. I have not responded. His messages range from being very apologetic to very angry, back and forth. I don't know what to do, and I feel like this relationship is over, but I still love him. I feel also really gross and violated in a way. Our mutual friends have been texting me as well, asking if everything is okay, and I've tried explaining the situation to my best friend, but he found it hilarious. So I'm afraid to explain it to anyone else. This is just so stupid. I literally feel like I'm crazy. Maybe I am uptight, etc. I also have a lot of his stuff over here that belongs to him, and I'm worried he will come back to get it and I'll have to face him. What should I do? Am I just overreacting? Now for a few comments. One commenter said, "Fuck that. I grew up with 3 brothers, and I wouldn't put up with this from a boyfriend either. Tell him, when you do this, it reminds me of growing up with my brothers, and you're starting to be about as attractive as a brother. As in, I am not attracted to you because of this. Stop it immediately, or I'm going to stop this relationship immediately. You are seriously crossing my boundaries, and this is not okay anymore." If he can't pick up on the fact that you are serious after that talk, dump him, because he's about as mature as a 2-year-old. Then OP replied, "Thanks. This really helps. I think I needed to hear that." That's how I feel. He's like one of my brothers. I tried telling him this, but I don't think he was taking me seriously. Thank you for your reply, because I suppose it really is a boundary, and that's why I've been so upset about it and kind of invalidating my own feelings and believing I am being kind of ridiculous. Now for a few comments. One commenter said, "Good God, just good God." After you literally screamed at him about it like a few hours ago, he thought it would be funny? Can you even picture being naked with him without gagging? Also, the whole thing is kind of hilarious in the, "I can't believe this is how a real grown butt person behaved. You've got to be making this up" kind of way. Then another commenter added, "Why would anyone think burping in her face makes her mad? I know, I'll fart in her face. That'll charm her pants off." In response to these comments, the original poster said, "To be fair, he did text saying he thought it was only the burping thing that I didn't like that much, because it was what caused the fight, and that's why he thought it would be funny. But I haven't replied because I know I mentioned it as well." Now for the next day update. Thank you to everyone who replied to my original post and also those who PM'd me. I wasn't really expecting as much support, but I'm glad that I'm not alone. Last night I was pretty miserable and just felt confused and sick about the whole thing. It really helped me deal with what I was feeling and rationalize reading what everyone had written. I just want to clear a few things up before I get into how this has climaxed for me. My boyfriend did not start out doing this constantly. I remember the first time he did it, I was confused and told him right away I did not like it calmly, and he seemed to understand. I have never laughed when he did it purposely. I know the difference between an accident and what he does. A lot of the replies helped me examine my relationship as a whole. We have had other problems that seem to fit the same pattern. He had the same behavior with driving very fast for fun, and he had the same issue with playfully pinching and tickling, but he was doing it so hard it would leave bruises. I always expressed that I did not like this, but he was insistent that I was overreacting. When I showed him he was actually hurting me, He stopped completely and never did it since. I didn't think it was an important thing to bring up. I think it's a bit harsh to call him hurtful because he respected that boundary. I know a lot of people were suggesting that I do the same thing to him or retaliate in the same way, and it might sound nice to entertain that fantasy, but I'm really not like that. I will never let someone else's actions define who I am as a person. I know I will never try to intentionally hurt someone, and that makes me have faith in myself. A few of you made me really cry because before I wrote my post, I was completely unsupported and I felt alone and, well, really ridiculous and dumb. So thank you very much for taking the time to help me, even though I'm a stranger and none of you owe me anything, let alone your time and kindness. Thank you. Now on to today. I have not replied to any of James's messages. I blocked him on all devices. I feel like I basically told him it was over, and he knew that. I have messaged a few of our mutual friends back, saying that I would really appreciate it if they would just drop it, that everything is okay with me, but the relationship is over between us. A post said I didn't have to explain the situation completely, so I did that. They seemed very understanding, except one replied saying, "Over a one-time incident? Get real lol, but so long as you're happy." It didn't really bother me because I know the truth. It was hurtful that James may have lied, but I'd rather surround myself with people who value honesty. I also invited my best friend over and asked him if he could help me box all of James' belongings, to which he agreed right away. He kept asking me what happened and if I was okay, so I showed him this post and he was disgusted. He apologized for laughing when I had tried to tell him earlier because he said he didn't know it was so serious. He offered to take James's belongings to him, but I made him promise to not be hostile or I'd ask someone else. He agreed. We spent a lot of the day in my apartment when the front door opened. It's hard for me to articulate myself, but I'll try to type it exactly as it happened. We both heard it and stopped talking immediately. It was James. I'm not going to lie, I was immediately frightened, and maybe I could have handled it better, but I kind of just stood there. I just didn't expect to see him. He has never shown up at my home or work without a warning. My friend asked him what the frick he thinks he was doing here. James kept staring at me and ignored him, saying, "I thought you were dead or something. Why have you been ignoring me?" My friend stepped in front of him and handed him one of the boxes and told him he could take his stuff and leave, that it was over and I didn't want to talk to him. James laughed and made a move towards me and said I needed to talk to him alone, but my friend moved in front of him and told him that he shouldn't be in my house uninvited, that it was illegal and he was going to call the police. Then James got really mad and twisted his face all weird, and I can't explain it, but he started yelling and it was like he wasn't the same person at all. He called me an intimacy lover and a jerk and said that I was some ridiculous princess, and he just kept going. My friend telling him, "That's nice. Now you need to leave or I'm going to make you." And then James threw down his box and punched my friend in the face. I don't remember exactly, but my friend fell back and James came up to me and he grabbed me and started shaking me, saying I was stupid for throwing this all away and that I was probably sleeping with my friend. I was very afraid and I couldn't believe this was happening. My friend got up and grabbed him by the back of his shirt and threw him off me and shoved him out of my apartment. James ran away down the hall, kicking people's doors and screaming. My neighbor had come out of his apartment and asked what was going on, and I told him to call the ambulance because my friend was bleeding from his nose. I was so embarrassed. At the hospital, I kept embarrassing myself, crying and apologizing to my friend while we were in the waiting room. His nose is broken. He keeps making Owen Wilson jokes/impressions, but he is okay. Now, I am at my friend's house because I am afraid to go home. He said I can stay with him for as long as I need to. I feel really awful that my friend got his nose broken because I was a bad judge of character. I also feel really guilty that I got so scared I just kind of stood there and let my friend get hurt. My friend is taking me to the police station to file a report, but I just want this whole thing to be over. But he is being insistent because I need to do this to ensure my safety. This is my first relationship, and I don't even know if this person was real. I didn't think this was even possible to happen. I don't understand what I missed, and I feel like I'm vibrating inside because of how frightened I am. I want to go home to my apartment, but I'm afraid he will come back, and the way my head is does not make any sense. I feel ashamed even writing all of this because it was from something so small and juvenile, so I don't know if I'm just handling it weird or if my head is blowing it completely out of proportion. How do I proceed now after I file a report? Has anyone been in this same situation before? How do people hide that kind of anger for over a year? Why did this happen? I'm sorry for the questions, but I just can't make sense of my own thoughts right now. Now for a few comments. A downvoted commenter asked, "I'm sorry, but this is unclear. You actually did tell James that the relationship was over, right?" While his reaction was obviously negative, I can kind of see why it would be overblown if he finds out that he has been dumped by having his girl's friend hand him a box of his crap and tell him to leave his girl's house. OP replied, "I did not explicitly say it was over, but when I had yelled at him before the blowjob incident, I told him I could not handle him doing it to me anymore, etc." But in his texts, between apologies, he said things like, "Have a nice life, you're not going to be hearing from me again," and that he was done with the whole thing and me being ridiculous. I can see what you mean, and that's what I'm worried about. From his point of view, maybe he didn't really mean to act like that at all. Final comment from OP. This was my first relationship, so I wasn't really sure. I guess I didn't have anything to compare it to be like, this isn't quite right. And in that way, I suppose I couldn't trust how I felt about it. But he has had quite a few other girlfriends. I guess my mistake was telling myself that he obviously knows better than I do because he has dated prior to me. I don't know why, but it seems still alien for me to think of this as abuse, especially since he can't defend himself. But I know what you're saying. Thank you for your reply. I will take the things you said to heart and really take this time to look into myself so I can have healthier relationships and be a healthier person. Now for a new update. 9 years later, OP saw and responded to the previous post. Things are great. Thank you for your kind words. It's been a trip rereading a post I made a decade ago. A friend of mine actually sent this to me because it reminded them of an anecdote I had shared with them a few years ago. Lo and behold, it was my own words. Rereading it has been a bit harrowing, to say the least, but the mindset I had back then was completely different. I was a very meek person, and my brothers treated me the same way in my own family dynamic. Obviously not with the intimacy stuff, but being able to do things that bothered me or hurt me, and I wasn't allowed to complain, so it was normalized for me. To answer your question, no, my best friend and I did not end up together. We're still very close, but our relationship has always been platonic. I actually helped him with an ex a few years after this, though it consisted of less bodily functions. My gross ex. After this, and despite pressing charges, he did try to harass me for a while, almost a year if I recall correctly. I think he just liked the feeling of making me miserable and couldn't let go, or comprehend how I was so thoroughly under his finger, but ended up pushing back. So it was hard for him to relinquish that, not of me as a person, but of that feeling of control. But for the first time in my life, instead of shutting down, I was actually angry, mostly on behalf of my best friend for being hurt. I knew my friend did not deserve to be attacked like that. I did end up focusing on myself, and I went to therapy for both the relationship and other factors, family, etc., so I could be a healthier person, as I said in my last comment on that post. I didn't date anyone for a while after, and focused mostly on building friendships and self-reflection. There were a lot of red flags I missed besides the other ones I mentioned in this post, like how he aggressively pursued me, intimacy things despite my inexperience, etc. But hindsight is indeed 2020. Am I the idiot for reporting my meddling coworker to HR after she refused to respect my identity and boundaries? I've been having beef with my coworker Lauren since she started working in the same office as me a year ago. I am a tomboy and been so my entire life. I look like a guy, I like to dress like a guy, and almost all of my fashion icons are guys. but I'm straight and female, and I am comfortable with who I am. It just so happens that I prefer to wear menswear for a plethora of reasons. Having short hair and an allergy to certain ingredients used in cosmetics makes me look even more like a dude. Lauren prides herself on being a straight ally, which I'm cool with. She does her own thing. That is totally fine. What isn't fine by me is this weird fixation she has had on me ever since we met. Lauren is convinced that I am a closeted trans man. When we are alone, which I make a point to avoid to begin with, she is always telling me how she will support me when I come out, and how she has all this advice for people like me. She goes out of her way to track me down and tell me about these blogs about people like me, which is cool, but please leave me alone so I can do my job. She once even asked me if I ever thought about doing hormone treatment. She creeps me the frick out. So, thankfully, I haven't seen Lauren face to face since our office began working from home. But every now and then, Lauren will try and reach out to me to talk, which I ignore, of course. That is until last night and the reason why I am writing today. I don't know how she did it, but she sent me a personal email containing a link to a psychiatrist who specializes in counseling pre-op, pre-hormone therapy trans men and women, and the usual spiel about how she is always there to help me. I'm reluctant to bring this up to HR because I don't want to discourage Lauren from offering up help to those who need it and do it on the reg. But I feel like she invaded my privacy big time by not only finding out my personal email, but bringing her unsolicited advice from the office to my personal life and thus violating my home work-life balance. The other reason why I feel like this will be a jerk move is because everyone at work would know that it is me who reported her. It's no secret about Lauren's behavior around me. I don't know if anyone else has reported her, but if I do and she gets fired, then this is all going to come back to me and I would be in trouble with my colleagues. While our office environment is pretty neutral, some of my coworkers are friends with Lauren, and I am afraid that they will blame me. I just need a second opinion. I don't know how long I can take this harassment, but would I be the jerk if I report my coworker to HR for harassment? I don't need her advice. I don't want her advice. I just want Lauren to leave me alone. Edit. Yes, I have told her I'm not trans. She is still convinced that I am in denial. Edit 2.0. Holy shoot, her behavior is not okay. I am reporting Lauren to HR first thing in the morning. Thank you for helping me see that this is all fricked up. Now for a few comments. One commenter asked if OP had discussed any of that with Lauren. OP replied, yes, along with telling her to leave me alone and that I am busy and that I am not comfortable talking about this. She still thinks I am in denial. I don't know what her deal is. Another commenter said, NTA, this is harassment and you are well within your rights to speak with HR. It is up to HR how they will handle it. You can let HR know she has good intentions, but that she needs to be spoken to about appropriate workplace behavior. Reporting to HR doesn't mean someone automatically gets fired. You should also try to be more explicit with her about the fact that you are not trans. You are happy the way you are, and you do not appreciate the unsolicited advice. If she still doesn't listen, HR is your next step. Make sure to keep a record of everything she does and everything you do in response to protect yourself. Written records are very important in the all too common situations where someone tries to go on the offensive after a complaint. Written records are a good backup if you ever have to defend yourself. OP replied, tried too many times to count. She still comes back. I have the email saved and screenshotted and backed up on my emergency flash drive. Another commenter said, NTA, she isn't an ally. She is a person in love with her self-perception as an upstanding person. She's trampling all over your reality in order to create a version of events where she can be the hero in your story who allowed you to find your true self. It's not okay, and if she won't stop on her own, you absolutely need to go to HR. Now for the 4-month update. Hi guys, it's Tomboy Troubles 2020 here with an update. It's been a while and a few things have happened. Some great, some shitty, but there's a happy ending. As I read through each reply, it helped me realize that Lauren's behavior was messed up. I was reluctant to go to HR at first because I was afraid of the consequences. I have friends who are queer plus who who often talked about how they wish they had straight allies back when they were coming to terms with who they are. A few stood by her because she's the ally they wish they had. Considering how people are so quick to cancel over disagreements, I was afraid of getting canceled myself. It took a lot, but I went to HR. We had a Zoom meeting with Lauren, a mediator, and myself, but it resulted in a slap on the wrist for Lauren. I was really pissed. It felt like Lauren got away with it. Aside from a whiny email from her where she insisted she was just trying to help, which I also reported to HR, Lauren stopped talking to me. That is until a few months later. Due to current events affecting our industry, there were mass layoffs at the start of November. I was spared, but Lauren lost her job. Since then, I haven't heard back from her, and I doubt I will see her again. Good riddance. Another thing I wanted to add, and I think you may find this interesting. As it turns out, I'm not the only person who made a complaint about her. So many of my coworkers had issues from her going back to when she was a new hire. I won't go into too much detail, but here are a few incidents that stand out. Lauren pressured an intern to come out when he didn't feel comfortable. She gave a bisexual coworker shoot for going on a date with a man after breaking up with her girlfriend. She attempted to get someone's mystery novel blog canceled. She constantly butt in people's conversations to offer her own unsolicited advice, etc. Honestly, I could write a book about it. But long story short, Lauren was an obnoxious coworker masquerading as an ally, and everyone suffered for it. So that's it. Lauren was fired. We're still working from home, but I feel that the vibes at the office will feel much lighter now that she is gone. If I have anything else to say, if there is someone who is harassing you into being someone you aren't, tell someone. Tell anyone. They need to know that what they're doing isn't okay. Going forward, I'm going to stand up for myself. Thank you all so much. You are all awesome. Also, guess who got a proposal on New Year's Eve? This lucky tomboy, and you can bet that I'm going to get married in a tuxedo. My husband-to-be thinks one of us should wear a white tux and the other a black one. What do you think? I'm sorry, I can't assist with that. Am I the idiot for risking my life to save a stranger stranded in a snowstorm while everyone else sat warm at home? My brother got stuck in his car since afternoon. He is near address removed, and he is running out of gas. We tried our best to reach out to the fire department, police, and tow companies, but didn't get any help yet. Please, someone help me. Any help or suggestion would be really appreciated. Now for a comment from a local about the conditions in the area. Volunteer firefighter here. Our trucks cannot move in this snow. We are getting stuck. We cannot get to anyone at the moment. At least 50% of the town's fire apparatuses are stuck somewhere. I hate to say this, but if you can contact him, tell him help is probably not coming. He's going to have to get resourceful, knock on doors, do something. There is nothing we can do at the moment. We are snowed in the fire hall. Then a comment from another poster. I live close by. I can bring some gas and warm clothes, possibly. If he's up for it, I can walk him back to that fire hall. I live near that area. Now a new post written by the same commenter. Saw another post on here saying someone was stuck on street removed near crab apples. Well, I think to myself, hey, I only live about half a mile from there. I bet I could help this person and make the decision to go. He's been stuck there all day and his clothes got wet from the snow trying to leave. So I knew he was in need of help. So I'm getting myself ready. I grab what little gas I have. I grab some food and water in case he needs any, and some new warm clothes and a blanket for him. Then I gear myself up. I put on some thick hiking socks, sweatpants, a backpack to carry my gear, puffy snow pants, a Hanes white tee, 2 sweaters, a jacket, a high-vis vest, thick leather winter gloves, insulated winter muck boots, a headband, and a motorcycle helmet to try and combat the snow and wind. So it's time to head out. It's about 11 p.m., wind gusts are still ripping outside, and snow drifts can bring the visibility down to 0. The motorcycle helmet is a mixed bag of being a help and having snow stuck in my face, but overall a good choice. Now let me tell you that going to get this man was difficult. I'm a taller man myself, so the snow banks weren't as much of a struggle for me. But unfortunately, when the snow drifts go up to my mid-thigh, and every step has my foot drop all the way down into the snow with no resistance, it leads to just walking becoming a big task in itself. So I'm making my way down the street. And it is difficult. I get that I'm wearing a motorcycle helmet and it's hard to breathe in that. But even when the visor was lifted, it was still hard to breathe. Not only from the snow constantly blowing in my face, but also the fact that it was hard to walk. I'm in decent shape, but walking through those drifts is no easy task. Eventually, I make it down my street and a few streets over, switching between easier and near impossible spots of walking along the way. I get to an automotive business, and their building blocked a lot of the snow, which let me walk like normal for once in a long while. I keep tracking, but now I'm near a main road without buildings as densely packed, so the snow drifts are blinding at points, and I need to focus on buildings and objects to know where I'm going. Eventually, I make it to the man's car after a good 40 minutes of walking when I only traveled 0.6 miles. So I get to the car and give him some clothes, because that's mostly what he was interested in. I didn't care for any gas or food or water, but I made sure to offer it to him to be sure. He changes and gets ready to make the trek himself with my help. After a few minutes, he is ready and we're on our way. He says he talked with someone and he has a house he can go to be warm and safe for the night that is about 0.3 miles away. All right, sounds good. Let's head there. We make our way there. The man is not well dressed for the weather, but you gotta work with what you've got. He has regular sneakers on, his pants and my snow pants I gave him, the hat I gave him, the sweater I gave him, and his shirt underneath. He throws a blanket on his head as a kind of protection against the wind and snow. It's bad out. My tracks from just a few minutes ago are all but gone, but I know the way I'm going, so it's all right. We walk up the road to the cross street and quickly cross the street. It's hard to see or hear anything, so we can't really tell if a plow is coming, so we act fast to try and stay safe. Then we make it to the side street. Well, needless to say, that street hasn't been plowed in ages. Snow drifts near my chest and no paths available, so time to trailblaze and make our own. We need to make it maybe like 9 or 10 houses into the street, but with snow like this, we are barely progressing at all. I'm dressed for the conditions, so I'm only getting tired. The man I'm helping isn't doing great. Snow is accumulating on his face, and he occasionally falls into the snow banks and needs to recover. When we get near houses that block the wind, we take a break and relax because we need the energy to make it to this house and can't give up. Eventually, through more struggles, we eventually make it to the house. About 0.3 miles in 30 or so minutes. The person living in the house graciously lets us both in. I recover by warming up a little bit. The snow that accumulated on me just starts dripping and melting, which I know is a bad sign for me, so I make my stop short so I'm not drenched in water on my trek back. The man I helped is very thankful and gets comfortable and warm for the first time in hours. But I can't stay long, so I tell him I'm glad he is safe. Thank the homeowner, renter, whoever the man that let me in was. Now on my way back home, it's a few minutes after midnight. Made it about a mile in about an hour. Not great, but it is what it is. It's another 0.6 or so miles home. My phone is getting caked with ice at this point, but surprisingly keeps working throughout the whole trip without any issues. Time to make my way back. I can actually see my trail this time, so I utilize my previous steps to try and make my walk back a little bit easier. I'm starting to struggle, but no, I can't stop. Eventually, I make it back to street removed and see a front loader messing around with some snow for, I'm assuming, emergency vehicle traffic. His windows are all iced and fogged up, and I can't tell if he even sees me. I've got my mission, so I stay the hell out of his way and keep on going. I give a wave and a thumbs up and keep making my way back home. Cross, street remove quick because now I know the plows are around, so I gotta be out of their way. Back into my neighborhood. Now my trail is gone, but I know where I'm going, or at least I think I do, and I keep making my way. I take a pit stop and call the girlfriend at home and let her know I'm okay and all that jazz so she can relax. Phone call ends and I keep making my way. Snow is blocking up my visor and I have been constantly raising and lowering it this whole trip. Fog and ice is really blocking my vision. so I essentially need to keep the visor up to see and only lower it now to catch my breath or block the heavy snow gusts. My progress is really slowing now, and my right leg is starting to hurt. Feels like I'm pulling something near my hip. Oh well, that's unfortunately not something I can dwell on while in the streets in a snowstorm. I keep making my way at a severely reduced pace and take a turn onto my street. Unfortunately, I was a bit exhausted and confused and made the turn one street too early and realized that about halfway down the street. Weighing my options, I decide I can't really keep going forward here without risking wasting even more time trying to get home. So I backtrack to where I made the wrong turn and continue on the correct path. Eventually, I make it one street further and make my correct turn. I am getting exhausted and my leg is really starting to bother me. No matter, gotta keep on going. I hook a left and am on the final stretch home. Foot trail is gone again, so I'm on my own for making a path. Snow drifts are getting bad and extremely difficult to get through. I start counting my paces and can only make between 10-25, usually only 10, before I need to stop and catch my breath. Gotta keep going. That trails on for a while. Eventually, I start walking right up against people's houses if the snow drift made a path to walk where there was less snow. I'm close to home, but very, very tired. Thankfully, for the most part, the snow is at least at my back on this path. I keep struggling, but can't give up. I am making nearly no progress, but I gotta get home. Eventually, I can see my house light, but still have little energy to make it there. 10 steps, 10 steps, 10 steps. I'm close. I see the last section of snow to near my house. 5 steps. My leg is really hurting. 5 more steps. Boom, home. I am exhausted and ready to drop. I make it in the door. Girlfriend helps take off all my clothes and backpack and whatnot. I'm caked in snow, but stayed warm throughout. I try to take my helmet off, but the snow caked onto the back of my head so much that my hair had ice in it that made them stuck together, and she needed to melt the ice with her hand to get it off. I have her check me for frostbite, and surprisingly, there's none to be found, which I might debate. At the time of writing this, my ears and still a bit numb and funny feeling, but nothing of much concern here. Almost like the feeling of Novocaine at the dentist, but to a much lesser extent, and then I relax. She has hot cocoa ready for me as I walked in, and I just get to relax now. I earned this hot chocolate. Mission success, helped a man get home safe, and got home myself. Now for a few comments. A comment from the homeowner who took in the brother. Thank you, man. You saved the guy's life. May Allah bless you. I'm the homeowner who you guys came in. For a second, I thought you were a first responder with your motorcycle helmet on. Lol. It's a happy ending story. The man stayed in my house 2 nights, and he headed out home this morning. He helped me clean some snow off my driveway before he left. He arrived home safe. His car is still stuck on the road. Thank you once again. Then Spore 21 Tufin responded, You helped save him too. Thank you for letting him in to stay with you. You're a hero for letting him in. No problem at all. Now for a brief update. Last night I made a post to ask for help for my brother who was stranded in the snow. After posting, I got lots of suggestions and advice. Then from nowhere, this man came and offered his help. Shout out to this kind human angel, Spore 211215, for helping my brother out of the snow in Buffalo last night. This man deserves all the love and prayers and gratitude for risking his own life to help save the life of a stranger. My family will forever be indebted to him, and I just want to help spread his story in hopes of spreading some good news during this holiday season. Please help me in making this local story known. Thank you, and happy holidays.